Chapter 6 notes that courts are an integral part of the political process in California as well as elsewhere because they make political choices that shape public policy. This chapter describes the structure of the California court system, focusing on the state Supreme Court. Composition of the current court is discussed along with its politics. Controversial court decisions on voter-approved propositions, such as the ban on same-sex marriage, are discussed along with the three strikes law, capital punishment, and crime as a political and social issue. In this lecture, we'll take a look at our court system, the courts at work, the High Court as a political battleground, courts and the politics of crime, and California law. First, it is important to know that courts are political. They make controversial decisions and often are called on to make choices between public policy alternatives. California's court system is the largest in the nation. Our judicial ladder has 3 steps: the Supreme Court, Courts of Appeal, and Superior Courts. Let's start with Superior Courts because the vast majority of cases begin and end there. Superior Courts, such as the Fresno County Superior Court, are trial courts. They handle a wide range of issues. In these courts, you will find attorneys making opening and closing statements, calling witnesses and cross-examining those witnesses, usually in front of a jury that will render a verdict. If you lose at the Superior Court level, you may go to the next rung in the Courts of Appeal. Appeals courts do not hold trials. Lawyers make arguments, and judges determine whether the original trial was conducted fairly. They consider only possible legal errors, not the verdict. The state Supreme Court is the highest level, and few cases actually reach this level. However, the state Supreme Court automatically reviews death penalty cases. How are judges selected and elected? In California, it is a process that is more complicated than the U.S. system. Superior Court judges are elected, but most actually first gain office by appointment from the governor. Service as a district attorney is common for Superior Court judges. Courts of Appeal and Supreme Court are done only by gubernatorial appointment. That includes a review process by the state's legal community and the Commission on Judicial Appointments. Judges routinely win re-election, so how do we get rid of them? In 1986, Supreme Court Justice Rose Bird and 2 liberal judges were removed, the only justices removed by voters in California history. The Commission on Judicial Performance investigates charges of misconduct or incompetence. You can see some of the topics of their investigations. As you can see, trial courts are quite busy. More than 10 million cases filed in 2010. There is a right to a jury trial for criminal and civil cases, though there are some issues related to selecting juries for trials, as you can see. Parties in civil cases provide their own lawyers. In criminal cases, the district attorney's office carries out the prosecution. Defendants hire their own attorney or are provided with a court-appointed attorney if they cannot afford one. Well over half of all felony defendants require court-appointed help, and about 97% of criminal cases are settled through pretrial plea bargaining. Just like the voting population and our elected officials, judges, prosecutors, public defenders, lawyers, and even juries don't reflect California's diversity, with an overwhelming majority of judges being male and white. In the state Supreme Court, attorneys present written briefs and oral arguments, and judges decide cases in conference. As you can see, the court issues opinions on a very small number of petitions it receives. As I previously mentioned, the Supreme Court is a political battleground. There have been more than 500 changes to California's Constitution, and courts are often called on to determine whether laws or public policy is consistent with the Constitution. The state Supreme Court was long dominated by liberals, but took a conservative turn after 1986. Courts today are moderately conservative and less controversial as in the past, and the tendency is to be pro-prosecution in criminal cases and pro-business in civil cases. Courts also sometimes overrule decisions of the voters. They are doing their duty in interpreting controversial propositions not only for content, but for constitutionality. Finally, let's take a look at courts and the politics of crime. California has more than 700 people on death row, but no one has been executed since 2006. In 1994, voters approved 3 strikes in response to the belief that judges were soft on crime. That led to a significant increase in the state's prison population. In 2012, voters approved a ballot measure restricting third strike penalties to serious violent crimes. That is your video lecture for this week. Please use this lecture as well as your study guide to prepare for this week's quiz. Good luck.